Welcome back to ASBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted as always to be joined by my friend Elliot Grigg. Elliot, you are my friend, as I said in the intro, but I can't believe a statement that you've come off with recently in the group chat, hence why this video is occurring. It is that obviously we've just seen Daniel Dubois fight Alexander Usyk for the Unified World Heavyweight Championships, and you made a quite remarkable statement in the group chat afterwards, and in one of the videos you did with Elliot Stott. Would you like to enlighten us to what that is and why we are doing this video today?
We are indeed. So yeah, thank you very much, Paul, for the respectful introduction. And obviously, the gauntlet, the challenge has been laid down. It is around, I suppose, the fantasy fight, the outcome of the fight between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois. Obviously, I think it's fair to say that you and I land on very different sides of the fence on this one. I was in the group chat, essentially saying that I think after what I saw Saturday night and what I saw recently with AJ's last couple of performances, I actually reckon if they did fight, that Daniel Dubois would beat him. And you obviously disagree, and many other people also probably disagree. But that is the reason for this video, and we're going to unpick it, I suppose. Here, that's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Suppose this is more. We don't really have talking points. This is just more. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. Isn't it? Going back and forth. Um, First thing, the first point I'm just going to make is that, and I hate to use this because anyone that gets in the ring deserves a huge amount of respect. And the braver men and women than you and I are. But I think there's a blueprint there. And both of Dubois' defeats to Joyce and now Usyk. I hate to use the Q word, but it looks like he's kind of quit a little bit. He's not
That's
gone
it.
out.
Drop it, baby. Let him have it, baby.
He hasn't gone out in his shield as in swinging and he's been knocked out. Kind of like I'll use the example of Eubank when he was fighting Liam Smith. He was all over the shop, wobbling, legs were gone, but he was still trying to like walk towards Liam Smith and fight him. Whereas Dubois, it's kind of the standard. You wait till you get to the 9 count from the referee, then you get up. And to me, I just think that sometimes he doesn't want it, and I wouldn't want to see him fighting. Well, I would want to see him fight Joshua, but if Joshua was landing those big shots on him, he's a far more concussive puncher than Usyk is. And I think Joshua is a bigger puncher still than Joyce as well. I don't think Dubois would want to know. What are your thoughts on that?
Cool. I'm going to start this off by saying I actually agreeing with what you're saying. That is the one caveat that I would say actually, that if Joshua got the jab going and started touching Dubois' eye, I think the knee would come out again. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm not going to dispute that. And I think I understand why he kind of chose in some ways to do what he did on Saturday. Obviously being young, like 25, do you want to sit in there and get sort of stopped? So you've had obviously bad injuries, so I can kind of see it from that perspective. But I also agree with you; it's not necessarily a good look, especially when you've got obviously a title on like 3 titles on the 4 belts on the line as you had on Saturday. I'll outline my why though. It's why I genuinely think this would happen, and it's to do with it's kind of what you were saying as well, actually, around the jab. I do think Joshua hits harder than Joyce. I do believe that as well. But I also feel that in a weird way, like Joyce's jab is better than Joshua's. I don't feel like Joshua would actually land with the same regularity as Joyce. I also feel like he's quite sort of mechanical in his movement as well. I don't see him obviously like moving as much as obviously usually did and creating angles necessarily land in the same way. And I was impressed by Dubois actually in his kind of his movement in comparison on Saturday compared to what we've seen before him. But I just feel like the recent performances we've seen from Joshua, Hellenius, Franklin, I just feel like if he hits Dubois, Dubois will go. I do believe that. Don't get me wrong. If he lands that shot, they land on Hellenius on him, he'll stop him. But I almost feel like the hesitancy that we've seen from Joshua recently, I don't see him coming out and starting in that way. I don't see him like if it's a firefight, I think he'd win, but I don't see him coming out and firefighting in that same way. I see him essentially trying to sort of do what he tends to do at the moment, which is sort of be a bit shell shocked and stand back. And we've seen him against bigger punchers, obviously kind of go backwards and not necessarily fight fire with fire in that way. And I think that's what he would do here. And I just see Dubois hitting him, and I see Dubois also getting to him. So that is why I don't get me wrong. When I say that I think Dubois beats him, I don't think it's like a 70-30. I don't think like Dubois is going to like just maul him. But I see it more being like a 55 kind of 45 in Dubois' favour for me, to be perfectly honest. I think it's close, but I just feel like Joshua, the style of Joshua at the moment, just won't cope with it. And if Dubois actually bothers to turn up and doesn't get jabbed into the knee, that he would prevail.
caveat that, and I respect your opinion, obviously. Are you essentially saying that if you think if Joshua would come out and does what he's done in the last few fights, being a wee bit more tentative, boxing on the back foot kind of thing, not going forward, are you saying that you think Dubois has the skill set to, land on Joshua when he's going back, forcing him backwards, and then ultimately stopping him?
Having seen what I saw with Hellenius, potentially, yeah. I think like I just don't think. I mean, Joshua has shown frailties before. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think he's got like the sort of glass chin that say like Dillian White has, for example. But he's obviously been hit before, and he's obviously been rocked before. And I just feel like Dubois could and probably will land at least once or twice. I feel like Dubois would also have the kind of speed to land on him. And also, from what I saw on Saturday, would actually have. I think he's improved, to be honest with you, in his style. Obviously, he came in lighter, so he was quicker as well. But I just feel like he's improved to the point where I actually think he would get off and he would land on Joshua. Um, and Joshua's face after Hellenius as well. I just feel like, I feel like I don't want to say this, like other people in the outlet would say it, but in some ways, I do feel like Joshua's finished. I feel like the difference between him now to him previous, like this wouldn't even be a discussion, would it? Like say around
Yeah.
like like 3 or 4 fights ago, it wouldn't even be a discussion. But since we've seen like how he sort of responded to those Usyk losses, especially, I feel like it's become more prevalent. I just feel like he's on a downward slide, and I feel like it's a really good time for someone around sort of say 5 to 10 in those rankings, or like even Dubois to sort of get into him, frankly. And I see him losing to quite a few of those fighters the way he's currently fighting.
Caveat that I'll say you mentioned the Hellenius fight, and yeah, I was there in the flesh, and um, for a few rounds I was frustrated, but then obviously the finish was phenomenal in the seventh when it did come, and now in the aftermath we've learned that Hellenius was on the juice, so maybe that's why Hellenius
Mm.
lasted that long and had more success than people probably thought he would. And one thing I want to mention as well is just to um kind of on what you've said about Dubois there. I think about the whole firefight thing. I don't think that would be either man's tactics. But if it was, it would massively actually favour Joshua. Because look at Dubois. He didn't have a firefight with Usyk. He didn't go right at Usyk from the get go. He did against Kevin Lerena and got dropped 3 times in the first round. So I'm thinking, if he did do that against Joshua, Joshua would ice him early. And I just think that I don't know whether this is just me with my AJ tinted glasses on, but I just think even though Dubois had a big moment against Usyk, and fair enough he did, whether you see that as a low blow or not, but I still think people are saying his performance against Usyk was better than Joshua's. First one, Joshua obviously we know wasn't great. Second one was Usyk did win, but it was a lot closer and Joshua had success. I'm not hearing anything. I'm not saying that Dubois did better against Usyk than Joshua did second time around. I'm just not saying that personally. Yes, for the one moment, he probably had Usyk in more trouble, whether you believe it was a low blow or not. But actually, on winning rounds and having success, I think Joshua was still, had more success than Dubois did against Usyk. And I just think that all in all, Joshua, despite maybe, as you said, potentially not being at his peak anymore, I still think he's better than Daniel Dubois in every single department.
Well, that is fighting talk, Paul, and that is what you're here for. But I would look. I actually agree. I agree in some ways. I think Joshua. I think I suppose there's more disappointment with Joshua's performance against Usyk, where there was more. Obviously, no one really gave Dubois a hope, so that in the fact that he was kind of better than expected, it seems to have like shifted the perspective a bit, as though he actually performed better than Joshua. I actually think Joshua's second performance against Usyk was the best of those three fights by an absolute mile. Like you say, it was a lot closer. He tarnished it a bit in the ring afterwards, obviously when he got the microphone. But the actual performance was a very good performance. Um, and to be honest with you, I would have to say as well that I think if Dubois hadn't have taken the knee, he would have potentially been stopped. Whereas obviously AJ, despite very nearly being stopped in the first fight, did see the final bell. So I kind of agree with you on that. I was basing my argument really solely around this current version, who obviously got roided Hellenius essentially at 39, kind of stuck it on him a bit and made it look more fallible. I feel like both men in a way, and this kind of goes against my point possibly, but I feel like both men in a way are kind of mentally fragile here now. I feel like both kind of broken to the point where they can both be got at, and it's probably a case of who gets at who first in some ways if this fight were to happen. Do you know what I mean by that? I feel like Joshua's probably still got the edge in the sense that he just seems willing to go out on his shield, whereas Dubois doesn't. But I feel like both of them are kind of mentally shot in a way, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's just, but that's why I'm saying 55-45. But I'm actually going to finish this video on a prediction pool because I'm going to say, well, it's not going to happen. Obviously, it's not a fight that's been made. But were it to be made, I'm going to come to you first. And I'm going to say, because I was one that brought the question up first, so I can get to let you answer it first. If this fight were to happen, say the next 6 months down the line, how would you see it going? How would you see it playing out? KO points and what rounds, please?
Um, I don't see that being anything other than a Joshua stoppage. When, if I'm going to give you a range, I don't see it being like, rounds one, two, three, unless it's, as I mentioned, the fire fight, but I don't think either man would really want that, to be honest. It's too risky. But I would say Joshua mid rounds, 5 to 8, and in and around there. I think Joshua would get him out of there rather conclusively. I think it could maybe be competitive early, but ultimately, I could maybe see a bit of the Q word again from Triple D. What about
I
yourself?
I'm going to say I agree with you again. I think it will finish around that range, somewhere sort of. I was going to think 6 to 9 in my head, but I'm going to go with the man. The Queensbury man, Triple D. I'm going to go. Would stop him somewhere around 6 to 9. But get to him eventually. But yeah, definitely won't go 12 rounds, and that's something we can finally agree on. So yeah, Paul, it's been great talking to you. Please take us out and your final word to viewers, please.
Yeah, thanks for that, mate. Really enjoyed that. Guys, for if you're watching, let us know what your thoughts are. Which one of us is talking absolute nonsense? Let us know. Is it me or is it Greg? Which one of us is talking sense? Which one of us is talking nonsense? Let us know in the comments your thoughts. Obviously, if this fight were to happen next, or even a few years down the line, who do you see prevailing? Obviously, also check out the rest of the content on the channel. We've got loads going up there with the big fights coming thick and fast in September. So yeah, once again, thanks Elliot for your time and appreciate it as always, and see you again soon.
Thank you, mate, and thank you very much, guys, for watching.